It is time to begin with the real debt relief. So, greetings, everyone. Really great to see everybody on this webinar right here. I'm so glad you are here and you're able to make it and join us for this presentation. And I'm very excited to be able to bring this important information to everyone today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jamal Bey. I am with SCR Credit Services. For the past 10 years, I've been involved in consumer personal finance and the credit and debt industry. I've pretty much done it all. I've done debt settlement, I've done debt collections, I've done credit counseling, I've done credit repair. Today my company specializes in credit and debt management solutions. Okay. So, as promised, today I wanted to talk to you guys about getting rid of your unsecured debt quickly and effectively, right? I want to deep dive right into all the options available to you if you have unsecured debt and you're looking for a resolution. This is going to be, an educational webinar, right? We are really going to take a look at is available to you now, currently, in order to get you out of your unsecured debt, okay? And, at the end, we're going to talk about a different approach that we take to debt resolution. Okay, and we'll talk about that, a little bit later into the presentation. Now, if you are seeing the screen and the screen is looking a little grainy, what you want to do is check the resolution on your YouTube space bar or your play bar. Okay, and that will change the resolution for you to HD. You can click on 1080 HD and it should come up a little bit better. Okay, we just started using YouTube Live. It's really awesome. We like it, and it really helps us, kind of get in contact with people and let them know, how they can get themselves out of this debt. So for now, I want to look at some facts, and that's pretty much how we're going to start, by looking at some statistics. Okay, so in 2016, the average credit card debt amount per household was $16,050. Okay, now the average annual interest rate on that credit card debt was 15%. So the family works hard, both parents are employed, so they make more than the minimum payments when they can, right? On average, it's going to take them about 10 years to pay off that $16,050. Okay? And, when it's all said and done, that family will pay back double what was borrowed originally at $31,075, right? That's the average amount that that family is going to pay after 10 years of making payments. Now, let's take a look at some student loans, okay? Because I know some folks out there have student loan debt, all right? Let's take a look at student loans. The average amount of student loan debt per household was $49,000, okay? Now, the average amount of time that it takes to pay off this debt, 21 years, guys. In reality, it's actually a little bit more than that, because, if you're utilizing forbearances or deferments, any type of income repayment plans, it can be stretched out for actually much longer than that, just accruing interest. Okay. Now, these figures are pretty staggering here. In the United States, consumers owe a total of $747 billion in credit card debt. Okay, this is pretty insane, considering that revolving credit cards have really only been around since like the late 60s, early 70s. So this total is less than 50 years of accumulated debt, and this number is accelerating faster and faster. All right, because more and more people are utilizing credit card debt as a means to fill their gap in their household income. So, you know, what's funny is from the time where we actually made this presentation to now, the average credit card debt owed by United States consumers has actually just hit $1 trillion. Okay, $1 trillion has just hit. So what we're going to do is actually put that in the chat room for you guys to actually see that link because it just came up on my stream a few days ago, and I wanted you guys to actually see that. All right. Um, So, we're up to $1 trillion in credit card debt, guys. All right. But even more staggering are the figures for student loan debt, far surpassing credit cards at 1.3 trillion. Yes, I said it, $1.3 trillion in student loan debt that US consumers owe. All right. So that's a whole lot of debt to pay back, especially when it gets harder and harder to find good paying jobs, even as a college graduate. So, I remember not long ago, if you had a bachelor's degree, you could really compete in the workforce, right? Now, people with master's degrees and doctorate's degrees are going after those same jobs, right? Which makes it much more difficult for the average individual to pay back their education loans. Okay. So what happened here? Right? In the last 13 years, the median household income has increased by 28%. Okay, that's pretty decent, right? I mean, you would think 28% is pretty good. Okay, well, not really. When you consider that the cost of living has actually increased in the last 13 years and by 30%. All right, so, nationwide, families have been taking on more and more unsecured debt. Okay, and not to recklessly spend it, but as I said, just to really cover their basic needs and to fill their gaps in their household income. So when we talk about good credit, we know that this first starts with good debt management, right? And paying your bills on time every month, keeping those credit card balances low. That's all part of managing the debt. And it's usually pretty easy to do as long as everything remains normal and stable, right? But you know what? Let's be honest. That's not how life works, right? Things are going to happen. Sudden events or situations that just change the entire trajectory of someone's plan. Okay, so now if I'm already spending more than I can afford, and then I go through a major change in my life, it can have a drastic effect on my finances. And you know what? I might need a little bit of help. Okay, so when my credit card balances are getting high, I'm missing student loan payments, and guess what? Now Mr. Debt Collector is calling me 6, 7 times a day. Okay, so it doesn't really take long before all the debt starts piling up, and you start to feel a little bit overwhelmed. So when you need some serious help due to overwhelming debt, one of the first things you're going to need is relief from the harassing phone calls and the threatening letters from the creditors and the third party debt collectors. You are going to need a reliable solution that's going to work fast to get you out of debt quickly and effectively. You need a way to restore your credit and start all over again. And of course, you probably could use some counseling and a little sound advice. So, once you're debt free, you won't repeat the same mistakes again. So, with this in mind, I want you guys to look at some options. Okay. Don't worry, there's not a whole lot, right? We can pretty much count them on one hand here. So, the first option I want to cover with you guys is just ignoring it and doing nothing, right? Sounds crazy, but, that's a lot of what people do. That's a huge option for a lot of people. Next, there's bankruptcy, or what I call the big B. All right. We're also going to take a look at debt consolidation as a possible option, and then we're going to go into debt settlement, right? And we're going to see what that's all about. Okay. And then I want to show you guys what we do to help our customers become debt free. Okay. So what happens when you ignore the debt? All right, let's talk about this for a moment. All right, well, it really is only going to get worse at that point. Okay, more interest and late fees will accrue to the account. Okay, if your account is in collections or if it's late, then the phone calls will amplify and the collection activity will usually escalate. Okay, now in this situation, when you ignore it, your credit is definitely going to be affected. Okay, even if you've never been late on your credit cards before, but you're holding large balances, that's going to have a negative effect on your score. Okay, and that's due to a factor that's called utilization. All right, now utilization along with indebtedness make up 30% of your overall FICO score. Okay, so when your balances are high in relation to your actual credit limits, okay, this is definitely going to affect your score. So even if you're just making the minimum monthly payments, but you're not late, all right, it's going to have a problem. It's going to be a problem. So if the account continues to go unresolved, it is highly possible that your creditors will file a lawsuit. Okay, now this doesn't happen all the time. Okay, it certainly depends on the size of the account and the ability to actually collect the debt. Okay, but if you have income and if you have assets, right, then that increases the chances of that account going to a collection law firm. So, of course, if you ignore the summons and complaint and you don't show up, okay, the court is going to enter a default judgment. And, this is something that collection agencies rely on pretty heavily. It's like their bread and butter. And so they bet that you're not going to show up, and then you're going to be held responsible not only for the debt, but for the court cost and the fees that are added as well. So no good could really come out of ignoring this situation. This is not usually the most viable option for most people. Okay. So I like to take a look at bankruptcy, what we call the big B. All right. Now, you can either file a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13. Okay. Chapter 7 allows you to get rid of all of your debt by liquidating your assets. Okay. But you have to be approved. Okay. And today it's harder and harder to be approved for a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, especially if you make any type of significant income. So the other option for most people is Chapter 13. And, this is where the courts will basically take your money and they're going to distribute it to your creditors for as long as it takes until your debt is repaid. All right. They call this restructuring or restructuring your debt. Now, bankruptcy will follow you around for at least 10 years. Okay. A Chapter 13 bankruptcy will be on your credit report for 7 years from the date of discharge. All right. So if it takes you 5 years to pay your creditors back through your restructuring plan, okay, once you're done paying, you're going to have an additional 7 years to wait before it can actually come off of your credit report. So this can really damage your credit and drastically affect your likelihood for new credit. Okay. Now, under the Chapter 7, your assets are sold. So all the toys have to go. You got to give back the Ferrari. You got to give back the four-wheelers and the 60-foot yachts and all that stuff. All that stuff gets liquidated under a Chapter 7. All right. And in addition, there are time limitations that will put restraints on things like opening up new checking accounts, new mortgages, etc., because mortgage companies really would not prefer to offer a loan to people who have filed bankruptcy within the past 2 years. Okay, so it's really difficult to get a mortgage if you file bankruptcy. Now, also under Chapter 13 bankruptcy, you will not get a reduction in your balances. All right, you will pay back 100% of everything that you owe. Okay. So another option that you might have heard of is debt consolidation. All right, debt consolidation has become extremely popular over the years, And we have to really talk about this. So when you consolidate your loan, you're actually creating a new loan. Okay, this loan is applied to your existing debts, which pays your accounts off, and then you will make one monthly payment to the new loan company. Okay, now in this option, you're not actually getting out of debt. You're just kind of moving it around, right? Shifting the debt from one place to another, borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, right? So to speak. So usually a debt consolidation loan is secured through refinancing the equity in your property. Okay, so the reason why they do this is because typically these loans are considered high risk. Usually someone who's going to get a debt consolidation loan is facing some sort of financial difficulty. So this particular type of loan product will need to be secured by some type of valuable collateral, because the chances of you defaulting on this debt consolidation loan, they consider it to be pretty high. Okay, so now the good part about debt consolidation is this option may reduce your monthly payments, all right, and your interest rate, and it's based on the terms of the new loan, hopefully. Okay. Um, Now, the reason why your monthly payment and interest rate go down is because hopefully those terms, after you roll your debt into another loan, hopefully those terms are going to be better than the interest rate on your credit card bills. Okay, and usually they are, right? Those interest rates can get pretty high. Now, debt consolidation does rely on good credit. Okay, because in order to get the loan, you have to be in good standing with your existing creditors. And for a lot of people that can be difficult. If they're already having financial difficulties, more than likely their credit is being affected. Okay, so if they're looking for a solution, because their credit is being negatively affected, or because they're overwhelmed in their credit card debt, debt consolidation says, well, you actually have to have a good credit score in order to benefit from this option. All right. Now, you will not get your balances reduced through debt consolidation. All right. You will pay back 100% of what you owe. Like I said earlier, just moving your debt from here and putting it over here. Okay. That's pretty much all you're doing. So, debt consolidation may be a viable option for some, but for a lot of people, it's not. So, what about debt settlement? Okay, to settle or not to settle? That is the question. We need to talk about this because, again, this one has actually become a pretty popular option as well for a lot of people who are looking for debt relief. So, in this option, you actually stop paying your creditors altogether. All right. The reason why is because in order for the creditors to negotiate a settlement, your accounts have to be severely delinquent and charged off. Okay, so in the meantime, right, you start paying into an account held by the debt settlement company. It's like an escrow account, but it's in the debt settlement company's name. Okay, and once you've accumulated enough funds in this reserve account, the company will then attempt to settle the debt for less than the balance owed. And these companies will charge upfront fees, and the fees range from anywhere from 15 to 25% of the total debt. Okay, so remember, they will get paid first before you start to accumulate any money in your account. Okay, for example, let's say your payment is $400 going into your debt settlement account. Okay, well, for the first 10 payments, let's say, that goes directly to the debt settlement company until you've completed paying your fee, whatever that fee is. All right. Then, after your fee is paid, the rest of your payments would then go towards your settlement accumulation. Okay. So, collection calls will cease in the debt settlement option, and that's because they will send out a cease and desist letter on your behalf to the creditors. Okay, and all this does is exercise your right not to receive phone calls, but it won't actually stop collection activity. Okay, and as a form of collection activity, the creditor does have the right to sue you for non-payment while you're in the program. So debt settlement will not protect you against lawsuits. So while you're saving money in your reserve account for 2 to 5 years, your credit is getting tanked, okay, because there are no payments posting. So if the creditors decide to file a lawsuit, it's on you, okay? You won't get any help from the debt settlement company, and they're pretty clear about telling you that, okay? So the whole point of settling the debt is to actually save money and reduce your balances. However, one thing you have to understand, when a creditor forgives a debt, that is an actual taxable liability because the creditor is writing that off as a loan, as a loss. All right. And, for the consumer, the forgiven amount is now reported as additional income earned for the year on a 1099, which means you will have to pay taxes on that settled debt. So let's say you have $100,000 in debt, okay, hypothetically speaking, and the debt settlement company saves you 40%. Okay, that's $40,000, right? Now you have to add the 40,000 as income when you file your taxes for that year. Okay, so if you're in a 30% tax bracket, $40,000 in income is an extra 12 grand that you'd have to pay in taxes. All right. Now, again, we're not tax professionals. We're not accountants by any means. But it is important for you to understand this concept if you're considering debt settlement as an option to get out of debt. Okay, you have to account for this. So, also, one important thing to remember too is collection accounts can stay on your credit report for up to 7 years from the date of last delinquency, even after you've paid them. So, when you settle a debt, it will show up on your credit report as a derogatory due to the charge-off status and the negative credit history that will go along with that item. More often than not, if it's at a collection agency, okay, it will show the account as settled for less than the full balance, right? Because that is fair and accurate. But it will also stay on your credit report for up to 7 years. Okay. Now, collection accounts are always bad. There is no such thing as a good collection account. If it's in collections, it's negative. Okay. It doesn't matter really if it says settled in full or paid in full. The algorithm, the scoring model, is still going to view that account as being a negative account. Okay. So those are your primary options. All right. But you know what? There's one other option. And I really want to cover that with you. Okay. This option is called debt assumption. Now, first off, it works with most unsecured debts. Now, this would be credit cards, personal loans, signature loans, store cards, gas cards, medical bills that are in collections, all right? Even student loans that are held privately, not the government-backed student loans, okay? Not the government-backed ones. So if you have an account with the Department of Education, that would be a federally backed loan. All right, but if that loan is held with a private bank, okay, it would work for this program. Now you can enroll a maximum of $500,000 in unsecured debt. All right, that's $500,000. It's a pretty high maximum. So if you have that much debt, it's good to know that you would be covered. Okay. Now all stages of the debt are acceptable with debt assumption. So if your accounts are late, if it's been charged off, if it's closed, right? If it's in collections, or even if it's current, it's okay. It doesn't matter. We can still accept the account. All right. You can choose your own program length from 6 to 36 months, depending on how you want to structure it. And this is the awesome part: no tax liability. Okay, so the way that the debt is dismissed, it does not actually carry a taxable burden to you. Okay. The debt assumption program will stop all direct communication from the creditors, right? But we don't just send them a cease and desist letter. The creditors will actually be instructed to call a special attorney answering service, and this is set up for you. It's on in your behalf, and it's through a recorded line. So, we can not only deter but track possible FDCPA violations. FDCPA stands for the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. That is the law that governs collection agencies. Okay, now the FDCPA is a very powerful tool that we use every day in our credit repair business. Okay, now the FDCPA regulates the times that the creditors can call you and the debt collectors can call you. Uh, and it also regulates how many times per day they can call you, and the tone that they can call when they talk to you, the tone that they have to talk in. They can't be harassing or threatening. Okay, and also there's certain disclaimers that they have to say on the phone when they call you. Okay, now if they don't do any one of these things, or let's say they call you after 9 o'clock p.m. All right, that's a FDCPA violation, and it carries $1,000 to you, the consumer, the victim. It carries $1,000 per occurrence. All right, so very, very powerful tool. I've known people who were able to settle their debt because the FDCPA violations were actually more than the debt itself. All right, now let's go into lawsuit protection. The debt assumption program does provide lawsuit protection. So, in the unlikely event that any type of lawsuit is filed, a local attorney in your state will be provided at no additional costs to you. All right. I don't know of any program that does that, but it's a pretty huge benefit. Okay. Now, also in this option, the interest rates and the late fees will stop accruing. And this is based on new terms and agreement that the creditors do agree to. Okay, we'll talk about this a little bit more in a moment. Now, you don't need good credit to qualify for this program. Even if you've had bad credit, you're still going to be approved. This is not like debt consolidation where you're taking out a new loan. All right, we want to be able to help everybody, no matter what their credit score is. Okay. Now, you do have the option to make a one-time payment. All right, that's a lump sum payment at a significantly reduced amount in order to resolve your debt issues once and for all. So we talked about a program from 6 months to 36 months, but let's say you just wanted to make one lump sum payment and be done with your debt forever. We can accommodate that for you, and at the same time, you're going to get a significantly reduced amount from your debt. And that's pretty much it. The debt assumption program gets rid of the debt, right? No games, no gimmicks, just get rid of it. Okay? So let's take a second here and assume that you owe $30,000 in unsecured debt. Okay, follow me, guys. Now, these are credit cards. Okay? I want you to also assume that the annual percentage rate on the revolving cards was 15%. All right. Now, the reality is probably a bit higher for some people. 17 to 18% APR is pretty common these days. But you know what? Let's be conservative at 15%. Okay. Now, let's say the minimum monthly payment on these accounts was 2% of the balance every month. Again, being conservative. But if you just paid the minimum balance every month, it would take you 410 months of payments until this debt was satisfied. All right? That's like 35 years, guys. That's a pretty long time. Longer than, your average home mortgage. All right? And if it did take you that long, you would have paid $47,283 in just interest alone. Okay? A lot of money. So if you add the principal and the interest together, you're paying back almost 3 times the amount on that credit card if you're just making the minimum monthly payments. All right, so that's 250% of the principal amount. Okay, now if you owe $30,000 in unsecured debt, the debt consolidation option, which is based on equity in your home more often than not, you can pay back the full amount of your debt. That's guaranteed. You're going to pay back 100%. But also, there's fees associated with that, right? They're not going to just loan you the money without any finance charges. So, roughly about an extra 15% would be added to that if you were deciding that the debt consolidation option was right for you. Now, in a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, okay, as we just talked about earlier, if you pay back 100% of what you owe through the debt restructuring plan, you're really not saving any money here. Okay. And in debt settlement, you will save a little bit of money. Yes. All right. But you got to add in the 15 to 25% of the debt that the company's going to charge. Right. And then the additional monies that you have to pay to Uncle Sam in extra income. Okay. And then, if the creditors are able to save you, let's say roughly, 40%, you still have to pay back 60% of the debt. Okay. So when you add all that up, the savings does seem to get pretty small. Okay. So check this out, guys. In the debt assumption program, if you owe $30,000 in unsecured debt, you'll pay back approximately $13,500. All right, that's 45% of the debt. That's it. 45% of the debt and you're done. So let's talk about debt assumption. What is it? All right, debt assumption is a safe and effective way to achieve true debt relief. This legal process has been used successfully for 12 years to offset thousands of accounts with millions of dollars saved. Our service utilizes a unique and proprietary method which surpasses traditional options in its effectiveness. So, how does it work? Okay, well, here's the breakdown. The first phase of the program starts with you legally assigning your debt over to our group of trusted advisors, who will act as a third party in this matter. Now, assigning a debt is a process that is used to transfer rights or obligations to another party. So just like when a creditor assigns that debt to a collection agency, giving that collector a right to manage the account, it's the same way. Okay? In this case, you are now assigning the debt over to a third party who works for you and works on your behalf. Okay? That's pretty much the first part of the program. Next, we got to talk about changing the terms. Have you ever gotten a notification from the creditors saying that they're changing their terms of service? All right, I'm sure you have, because the creditors change their terms of service all the time. Okay, in fact, most companies that you're doing business with in any type of fashion is going to change their terms at least once a year. Okay, now you're not going to sign a new contract every time the company changes their terms, but the stipulation is if you continue to use the credit, then you automatically agree to the change in terms. All right, and if you read the new terms, which many of us don't, I know I don't, and you decide you don't want to agree to the new change, then all you got to do is close the account and go on your way, and you have the perfect legal right to do that. But most of us just, open up the app and we see, oh yeah, we got to change, terms of service. We click the button and we keep doing whatever it is we wanted to do, right? Because at the end of the day, we're not going to stop, using our Uber ride or whatever app you are using or service you're using, right? And so that's the rule. If you continue to use the service, then the assumption is you're agreeing to that new term. And this is contract law. It's based on under the assumption that an agreement is made through your implied performance. Right? To put it another way, if you walk into a restaurant and you sit down, if you look at the menu, right, and you decide that you want to order some food, and it comes to the table, you actually eat the food, okay? The assumption is is you are agreeing to pay for that meal. All right. You didn't sign any physical contract, but the agreement was still there. All right. And so if you don't have the money, but you eat the food, chances are they're going to call the cops on you, or you're going to be in the back doing dishes. Okay. So even though you have agreed to one set of terms with your creditors, you do have the right to change the terms of service just like the creditor does. Okay? Debt assumption offers your creditors a new change of terms from the original agreement so that it's more favorable for you. Right? The new terms could include things like no late fees, no more interest, no reporting to the credit bureaus. All right. Once these terms are accepted by the creditor, they will incur penalty fees for every instance that they violate the new agreement. So it's like we're flipping the tables on them, guys. Now, you will continue to make your monthly payments, your new payments, under the agreed upon terms. Okay. All correspondence, whether by phone or written, will go directly to our program managers who will then track and handle all of the responses. So the debt assumption program will offset the debt and or render it uncollectible within 36 months. All right. In the unlikely event a lawsuit is filed, you are provided with a local attorney along with any additional attorney assistance and or paperwork that's needed for a successful outcome. This is free of charge. At the same time, or at the right time, you will be provided a professional credit restoration company to dispute all inaccurate information. So your credit will take a slight hit in this program, guys, for approximately 12 to 18 months. This is due to the new terms of service that's being accepted by the creditor and the fact that you will be making less than the required payments that's owed. But ultimately, you will be provided free of charge with a professional credit restoration company that will dispute all the inaccurate information. Now, we talked about the fact that the creditor does agree to a certain set of terms. One of those terms being that they will not report to the credit reporting agencies. So, if at the end of your program there are items that are reporting from that creditor, then technically those items are inaccurate. Okay, and under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, all information that's inaccurate, incomplete, or unverifiable has to be deleted or corrected from the credit report. One important thing to remember: in 12 years, no client has ever received a judgment in this program or has settled a debt. So that's a really awesome track record, guys. So I want to talk about a customer example. Okay, we're going to call her Jane. Now, Jane has $78,000 in unsecured debt. Okay, she used a lot of her personal credit to fund her business. So when her business failed, she got stuck with the bill. So right now, her current minimum monthly payments on all of her cards combined, $2,350 a month. Okay, at the current rate that she was paying, it would have taken her 267 months to pay her debt off. Okay, that's 22 years. Long time. Now, once she enrolled in the debt assumption program, her payments under the new terms changed to a little over $1,000. So she was saving $1,300 a month starting from month one. So we were able to give her some immediate relief. Okay. In addition, the time it would take to repay these debts was cut from 22 years down to 36 months. 36 months, and Jane was done. Okay. In total, Jane saved $42,900. Okay. She paid 45% of the debt and she was done in just 3 years. Okay. This is a typical customer example of how much an individual can save in a program like this. So how much is it? Okay, so I know some of you guys are wondering, so here it is. It's a $250 application fee, guys. It's $100 per enrolled account. All right, and these are both one-time fees. And then after that, it's just $59.99 a month for 36 months. Okay. This service is backed 100% by a money back guarantee. That's how legitimate this program is, and that's how much confidence that we have in this program. If any of your accounts enrolled cannot be resolved within 90 days, that fee that's associated with that account will be returned back to you 100%. Okay. Now, just so everybody is clear regarding the criteria and what can be accepted or not, eligible accounts include unsecured debt only. This is bank issued store cards, gas cards, credit cards, personal loans, signature loans, private student loans, small business association loans, medical bills in collections, credit union, Visa, or MasterCard accounts, and business bank loans that are personally guaranteed. Okay. Non-eligible accounts are government-backed student loans, okay, medical bills with the originator, deficiency balances from real property, okay, and business bank loans not personally guaranteed. Now, when we talk about deficiency balances, one of the more common ones that we would see is repossessions. A lot of times what happens is when a car gets repossessed, it is sold at an auction. And then after it's sold, the remaining balance that's left over is what's actually reported to the credit bureaus as a deficiency balance. So just to be clear, we cannot accept those accounts simply because they originated as a secured loan. Okay, so credit union loans are acceptable, are unacceptable, as well as taxes. Okay, for obvious reasons. So also limits. Okay, the minimum amount of debt that you can enroll is $15,000 in unsecured debt. Okay, the maximum amount of debt you can enroll, like we discussed, is $500,000. Okay, now when it comes to each individual account, you can enroll up to a minimum of $1,000 on each individual account and a maximum of $50,000 for each individual account. Okay. And so we have about 10 minutes. All right. So what I want to do is go into any questions that people might have, um, and see if anybody wants to chat on the live chat for a moment. I'll wait and see if anybody has any questions. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my information up here. My email is there, my phone number. If you have any questions after this that you think of, you can always give me an email or shoot me a phone call, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions for you. Nobody has any questions? Okay. All right. Yeah. Jada Inc. If you can, um, Jada Inc. If you can email me after this presentation, you see my email there. If you can email me after this presentation, then we can certainly talk offline about that. Okay, and we got a question. Where do we sign up? What we need to do is do a quick assessment, and an assessment just kind of means we want to pull your credit report. We want to see exactly what you have and make sure that the accounts that you do have are acceptable in the program. We can schedule a time to do that. Just email me, Cali Swag, Cali Link Swag. I see your question. Send me an email, okay, or give me a phone call, and I can get you set up with a credit assessment. That's pretty much how we start this process, guys. We just want to do a credit check, make sure that you can qualify for the program based on the criteria that we just outlined. And at that point, if you fit the criteria, we can get you enrolled. Okay, it's pretty simple. Everything is primarily done online. All right. So I hope that answers your question. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, no problem, Jada. I see you. Send me out that email as soon as you can, and we can talk about that. I'm really excited that you guys came tonight, and I appreciate you guys spending an hour with me. Um, I'm gonna just go ahead and leave my information on the screen there for a couple of more minutes in case anybody wants to write it down, and then I'll let everybody get to their Friday nights. Okay, I think that's it for the questions. You guys let me off the hook pretty easy tonight. so I guess that's it. We'll go ahead and wrap this up. Thanks again, everybody, for coming on out, and we appreciate it. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll be more than happy to help. All right, thank you, everybody.